Auf diese Episode habe ich mich echt schon richtig lang gefreut, denn heute darf ich euch Susan Ireland vorstellen. Susan bringt über 30 Jahre Erfahrung mit als Director of Business Operations bei Boeing. Das heißt, sie weiß, worum es geht, wenn es um Team Leadership und Change Management geht. Gleichzeitig war sie eine Single Mom, das heißt eine alleinerziehende Mutter mit 3 Kindern und hat das alles unter einen Hut gebracht, ohne in den Burnout zu rutschen. Und genau das finde ich immer wieder so faszinierend an dir. Übrigens, Entschuldigung, wenn du ein paar Vögel im Hintergrund hörst, aber es ist viel zu heiß, um alle Fenster geschlossen zu halten. Jetzt starten wir auch schon rein mit der Folge zu Susan. Schau auf jeden Fall auch in die Shownotes. Ich werde dir die ganzen Infos und ihre Website und ihr Coaching verlinken, denn sie macht wirklich einen fantastischen Job und da kann ich nur selbst aus Erfahrung sprechen. Kleiner Hinweis noch am Rande. Sie hat gerade Covid. Ich war gerade wieder genesen, aber auch noch nicht ganz 100%ig wieder fit. Wir haben uns die allerbeste Mühe für dich gegeben. Doch verzeih uns, wenn wir vielleicht manchmal ein Ticken langsamer waren, als du es gewohnt bist. Trotzdem finde ich die Episode mehr als gelungen und freue mich, sie heute hier mit dir teilen zu dürfen. Ganz viel Spaß beim Zuhören. Vom Stresspreneur zum Chillpreneur. Lerne entspannt erfolgreich zu sein. Weil Stress kein Statussymbol und Burnout kein Standard sein darf. A wonderful good morning. Today is another Monday, and this means we have another podcast episode. And today it's not only me, but I have a wonderful guest, a transformational and leadership coach. And welcome to the podcast, Susan Ireland.
Hi, Patricia. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for your time. I mean, we were just talking about, lots of things going on at the moment. And I know you had a long flight last night. So thank you for this call in the morning.
Yes. Yeah. Luckily, I'm still on East Coast time. So
that's good.
Ahead. Yes.
But you are currently in Seattle, right?
I am. And it was nice to come home. It's really beautiful here. We finally got summer.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Is it as hot as in Germany? You have Fahrenheit, but we have something like 36 to 38 degrees, which is super hot.
I think we're a little bit less. I'm not doing the translation right.
Me neither.
We're going to be in the 90s this week, so which is fairly hot for Seattle.
Okay. Yeah, I have an American friend here in Munich, and she always, she has all the tables from Fahrenheit to Celsius and inch and pounds and whatever. So yes. We get along.
Yes.
So, Susan, the reason you're on the podcast is because you are really an idol, because you have raised 3 kids, right?
Yes.
And you have had a great career, and you still have a great career. And I was wondering, how did you manage to do all that and still sit here so smiley, so happy, and so satisfied?
Oh, you're very nice. I think the word idol is a little bit overwhelming. I would just say I survived. How about that?
Okay, tell me, how did you survive?
Well, I'm not going to presume to give anybody really advice. This is such an individual thing, right? Each of our lives are so different, and we're faced with so many different challenges, and we all are faced with lots of challenges.
Yeah.
And really what I can share with people what worked for me, but the biggest, I think, insight, and I wish that I had when I was younger, when I was kind of going through it, is that I was okay the way I was.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody knows everything. And as long as I stuck to my values
mm-hmm.
and did my very best, which was far, far from perfect, it was going to be okay.
Did you? Yeah?
Yeah, that's it.
Did you ever choose, or did you ever had the feeling that you have to choose between kids and career, or was it something you were convinced that you're going to have both anyway?
Well, for the majority of my career and kid raising, I was single.
Yeah,
so
that's even
it was
more
not
wow.
Yeah, it was not a choice. I definitely had to work.
Yeah.
And so that choice it was, I mean, of course it was always a choice, right? I could have made a choice not to work, but in my mind, it wasn't. I needed to provide for my children. I needed to get them to school and clothes and, all that stuff. And I didn't really have other options. Of course, I mean, I know we always do. I just didn't think of any other options at the time.
Yeah.
So, so that it was not a choice that I made, right? So that's one thing that was just off the table for me, which kind of simplifies things. So I have to figure this out. I have to figure out. And so I think, and I have 3 children, you're right, but I have 2 that are very close together. And then I had my third 13 years later with a second marriage. So for a long time, it was the 2 girls and me. And the way I approached it, I was pretty young compared to my friends for having children.
May I ask, how old were you when you had the girls?
I was just turned 23 and 24. So I was pretty young when I had.
Yeah, I'm just realizing it would be like 6 and 7, like the age of 6 and 7 for me now.
Right,
wow.
Right. So I was. The way I approached it was just like, this is our life. I have to work, you do your thing. And I didn't feel guilty about it. I didn't feel guilty that I was going to work because, like I said before, this is what we had to do to survive. And because I didn't feel guilty about it and wasn't stressing about that, they didn't either.
Mm. It was just normal?
It was just normal. Plus, I have to say, I had a lot of support from family.
Okay.
So there was my brothers and sister was around, and they were younger than me. And so they were, teenagers helping out with these kids. And so it was kind of a community.
But they lived close by, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And so it was just the way it was. And so nobody felt like there was something wrong. Mm-hmm. So that's, they were like, they didn't like to go to extended care at school, like early in the morning or afterwards. But, and they complained about that, but, it wasn't a big deal. And I have to tell you, there was some times when I felt guilty. There was a time when I decided, this was a little bit later after I had, I guess I was taking classes, and I did feel guilty because I would have to study and that kind of stuff when I was with the girls, and which took away, their time for us to do stuff. But later I read something that one of my daughters wrote for a class thing. And it was, what do you like about your mom, or something like that. And what she wrote was, well, we study together. And so like when they were doing their homework, I was doing my studying. And I think that I thought, oh, wow, that's an unintended consequence. I was feeling bad, that I wasn't giving them my 100% attention, but they were really learning, I guess, from me that like studying is important and doing something better for yourself so I could do better in my job. They understood that was what I was doing it for. I want to get a better job. This is what I have to do. And so it was modeling for them that.
Yeah, I can totally imagine.
They continue to do that. So I thought, wow, that's pretty amazing.
That's cool. Yeah, it's a different angle to see things from, right? Just another perspective.
Right.
Yeah. Right. What was your profession back then?
I worked at the Boeing company, and so I was in program management, business operations, that kind of a thing. It was kind of a business function.
But did you just join when you had the girls, or when they were that age, or have you already been quite some years there?
No, I joined Boeing in 1986. So they were 3 and 4.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is really a tough decision. Did you know that, or was it a new job meant a totally, I mean, it's a new work style, it's a new company, a new team. It's also kind of exhausting in the business and exhausting at home, no? Because you have always be fully prepared and fully, I don't know, give all your attention.
Yeah.
Yeah. If everybody could see your face right now, yes.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. I think I was, it was, and the company was great, and the people that I worked with were great. And I think I was always late for everything because I live in the Puget Sound, and I lived in Seattle and worked in Auburn, which is a long way away. It's, maybe not too bad distance wise, but you got to drive through Seattle. It's terrible traffic. I had to drop off the girls in the morning and drive. Oh, that was so stressful. And you want to hear a funny story. And this is like,
definitely,
it kind of epitomizes like the craziness. So there was some kind of really important meeting. I don't even remember what the important meeting was about, but it was a really important meeting. And I had to be there like at 8:00, because then we were going to go, the group of us were going to go together to this important meeting. So I had to drop off the girls and then drive to work and be there by 8:00. And so I drop off the girls, and it's terrible traffic. It's raining. And I thought like, oh my God, I'm going to be late, and they're going to have to leave without me, and I'm going to lose my job, all these crazy things and not only that. So then if you have to park, I had to park like way away from the office, and it's kind of gravelly parking lot. And so I'd wear my tennis shoes and have my heels, because this is back then when we wore heels and a skirt, and in my bag. And so I had my heels in my bag and my lunch in my bag, and I had my tennis shoes on, and I'm running through the rain and getting to the thing, and they're all waiting for me, saying, because I really was late a few minutes, and they said, we got to go. And I said, okay, I'm going to change my shoes. And I looked down at my bag, and I had brought spaghetti for my lunch, and the spaghetti had fallen out, and it was all in my shoes.
Oh
no! And I was just like, oh my gosh! And so I said, I got to go to the bathroom. And one of the women who was coming with me said, what's going on? And she said she sees me taking out my shoes in the bathroom and throwing out the spaghetti. And she says, oh my God, Susan, we're both laughing so hard. I'm washing my shoes in the sink, and I put on my shoes like totally wet, and I go out and we do the meeting. And it was just crazy. But that was, I guess, I don't know if that's balancing it well, but
obviously, I mean, you still wore your shoes.
I still showed up.
You did.
Yeah, and they were all great. I think only the woman knew that I had spaghetti in my shoes. We actually still laugh about that today, because that was my life. That was my life. It's like I had spaghetti in my shoes, spit up on my shoulders.
Damn.
Yeah.
Did you ever had a situation where you said, oh, I wish my life wouldn't be that stressful, or I wish I didn't have to wear that many hats?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. When was this time? Was it more often, or was it more like a special season when the kids were young, or?
I think it's just every now and then, you know. The other thing is, I always felt like this, where I think being a woman, everything that I had to do had to be better than everybody else. There wasn't that many women. And I was a single mom, and I was told, they were super nice to me, but I was told, we know that you've got this going on, and so that maybe I wasn't going to get promoted as fast.
Mm-hmm. So did you have the feeling you had to work twice, or like more than the others?
Yes, and sometimes that, I think there would be times when I was particularly tired, or I thought like, I just don't know if this is worth it. It's frustrating. But it was fleeting, then I think I need a break,
And did you take a break then?
Yeah. I mean, not huge breaks.
Yeah, because you couldn't, right?
Right. But take a night off, go to a movie or watch a VCR with the girls or something, Yeah. And again, I also had great family and friends. Cool. And so they were supportive too. I mean, it was nice to say like, I need to get out, because I was kind of ahead of the game of my friend group with kids and all of this. So there was a lot of them still available that they could just go play.
Okay. What would your everyday life back then look like? Bevor Susan dir verrät, wie ihr Alltag damals ausgeschaut hat und wie sie das alles unter einen Hut bekommen hat, möchte ich darauf eingehen, was sie auch immer wieder sagt. Und zwar, ohne Hilfe, ohne Support hätte sie das alles niemals schaffen können. Und genau so geht es vielen anderen Menschen auch. Und es ist überhaupt nicht schlimm, nach Hilfe zu fragen. Deswegen packe ich dir in die Shownotes den Link zu einem kostenlosen Stress-Coaching-Call. Wir können uns austauschen und schauen, wie kannst du dein Business aufbauen, wie kannst du Strukturen und Strategien etablieren, dass das Ganze für dich stressfrei ist und dein Business trotzdem so richtig abhebt. Ich freue mich auf unser Gespräch und jetzt hören wir weiter, was Susan zu erzählen hat.
Well, so I get up, I mean, my alarm, this was always something, I worked for this manufacturing engineering company that worked 24/7, but first shift started really early. And so my alarm would go off like at 4:30.
Wow,
like
that is early.
Everybody said, you're going to get used to this. I worked there 30 years. I never got used to that. But that's the time my alarm would go off for 30 years.
For all the 30 years that early?
Yeah.
Susan, You're incredible.
Yeah. No, I never got used to it. That's not incredible.
But you still showed up.
I still showed up. So they get up, get myself ready, get the kids ready, drop them off at daycare, and then go to work, come back, pick them up, have dinner, do the homework, do that stuff, go to bed.
Bring them to bed, go to bed.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow, that's intense.
I never had any problem sleeping. So that was never one of my issues. Thank goodness.
Is there a thing, how do you see the word or the term work-life balance? When I hear your story, I mean, that's super intense. How do you see it with work-life balance?
Well, I think when I hear that term work-life balance, it's very kind of linear, like you're weighing something.
Yeah.
And I've heard this before. I truly believe it. It's like it's a blend.
Yeah. That's a nice one.
I think it's true, because I'm going to go back to my example about doing the homework with the kids, So at the time I'm feeling like, I'm doing work in the presence of the kids. But from their perspective, they were feeling like they were doing their work with mommy.
Yeah, that's cool.
So that is, if I would have known that, I think a pressure or some guilt would have been lifted. Yeah. And that would have been a lot better,
How did you get along with that guilt? Like the feeling you had? Did you just accept it, or were you working on it, or how did you manage it?
Well, I think there's, and you don't have to believe everything that you think.
That's super nice.
So I felt guilty, and, but I didn't, I think like I didn't let it like dictate my reactions. It was, I think what I do is, if I can make some space in between when I'm feeling and then pause or breathe or just like let it sit there and then decide what I'm going to do about it, it works better than actually just like feel, react. That is a
take the
problem
time
for me. Yeah, that's usually where my problems come. So,
I totally feel you.
Yeah. So the feelings, I think, are really important. So the feeling of the guilty feeling, I think, is important to know, like, okay, I'm feeling guilty, but how guilty am I feeling?
Yeah.
And why am I feeling guilty? And then to really assess, like, oh, it's because I do need to spend more time with the kids. And so then do something about it.
Yeah.
Or is it just, I'm just feeling guilty because, I should be. Somebody says I should be doing this, or I should be showing up at school. Ooh, the school thing was always a troublesome. There's always the moms who would be at school doing all the volunteering and that kind of stuff. And I was not one of those. Yeah. And they had a way of, and it wasn't them, but of just their presence had a way of making me feel guilty because I wasn't there.
Yeah. How did you get along with these comparisons or situations when the other moms were like doing all the volunteering stuff?
Yeah. I just had to get over myself and say, I'm really glad that they're doing it. and that's it. I would give money where I could. I would show up when I could. I wasn't like totally absent, but I wasn't there as much as.
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah. Was there, coming back to the girls, was there any time you really actively thought, okay, do I want to have kids? Or was it more like, hey, I know I want to have kids. I want to be a mom and I still gonna figure it out?
Oh, no, I just had kids. Like, that's it. Just like, oh.
Really?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. There was no thought. Yeah.
Really?
No.
Because nowadays, of course, so many women, right? They think, and most of them who are self-employed are like, is it okay? Can I handle it? Can I manage it? How many kids? And it's not like, oh, yeah, let's have a kid. It's more like, okay, how much can we prepare and organize?
Yeah. I think it's, I have to say, I do think it's better to prepare and think about it. I just didn't do that.
Okay.
So, yeah. But I also think you can overthink it and
That is true. Yeah, that is true. Yeah.
So it's like that balance again, So so I don't recommend the Susan way. This is why I say I don't think I don't think I'm good for advice. I can tell you what worked for me and things I wish I would have known at the time. And hopefully my experience can help somebody else, because that's the other thing. I think this goes for a lot of things, is that for some reason, I thought I still can fall into this problem too, is that like, I should know everything, I had this great long career. I've been a mom. I should know everything. Well, in fact, the older I get, the more I realize I know nothing. And, but because we have this feeling where like, we don't reach out to others and talk and say like, what do you think? What do we feel like we're going to be judged or something. And really, we just have relationships and community, supporting each other, giving each other grace. I've really been thinking about this word a lot, grace, lately, because giving ourselves grace and giving other people grace, allowing people to make mistakes and to say stupid things. I can't tell you how many times I've said really, really stupid things. Not from a bad place, but it just comes out bad. And
we're just humans.
Yeah. And so if people say like, oh, I'm giving her a little bit of grace, but I know she's coming from a positive place. She's a little awkward. Yeah.
Is there any way for you to make decisions fast and good. So is there any tactic or strategy or anything, okay, if I need to decide, I'm going to do it this and that way? Or is it just the spontaneous way for you?
Well, I think you know me and you know that I'm really focused on values.
Yes.
So the best way to make a decision, I think, is to really know your values and to revisit them, because they change over life. I mean, they don't change like family might be important at one point. Like when I was, in the middle of motherhood and raising small children, I would say family and children were my values. And so all my decisions, I mean, really, the reason why I went to Boeing in the first place was to take care of my kids. That was the reason. And if I didn't have my kids, I don't think I would have made that decision at that time. So I'm so glad it worked out that way, but that was the reason why. So, and now that my kids are older, I wouldn't say that they're not my values, but that isn't my intense focus. I have other values now. So that's where I mean to keep revising them and maybe the priority of them, because that affects the decisions that you make.
True that.
Yeah, because I'll give you an example. I don't think my children would appreciate it if they were my number one focus and everything.
Oh, yeah, just imagine it nowadays.
They're adults with their own things going on. They do not want their mother in their lives.
Mom, I love you, but leave me alone.
Totally. They need some space. And so that's why it's important. I need to move on to some of my other values and make my decisions that way. So I think that's the best thing.
That's good. And I really like that you were talking about values. And I think also that's a part that really, we both share. How would you support somebody who doesn't know what their values are? Like they don't know yet what they like or what they need. How would you approach that?
Well,
because that happens so often, because I always think like everybody knows his values. And then I realize, no, there are so many people out there like, oh, I don't know what I like or what I need or what I do.
Yeah. No. Well, I don't know. So I don't mean to plug my podcast, but I will. But we talk about this. And we have, I'm looking over here because I know this isn't, but we have the Live Your Values deck.
Oh, that's cool. I'm going to put it in the show notes.
Yes, do. Because, and these are made by a friend of mine and Debbie's, callers from Seasons Leadership, Lisa Congdon and Andrea Nicolescu. This was a pandemic project.
Wow.
That Andrea came up with. And because she also thinks that it's so important to know your values. So it's it's easy, it's fun. It's a little deck of cards that has all these values on it, and you rank them. They bring you through this thing. And it's so easy. It seems like sometimes you think like, what is this going to do? But it really brings to light, what is important. And it takes time. I would say just play with the deck. You can actually go online and Google values exercise. This is something that is everywhere. It's simple. It's so simple that people think like, oh, it's not worth doing, but it totally is worth doing.
That's great. Yeah, I'm going to put it in the show notes. Do you know if it's available in Europe as well? Because I'm pretty sure it's an American version.
Yeah, I don't know.
So I'm going to figure it out, and hopefully I'll put it into the show notes.
Well, and we can ask Andrea.
Yeah.
Get it over to Europe.
Yeah, that sounds great.
Yeah.
So you decided after leaving Boeing, after I think 30 years, right?
Yes.
You decided, okay, I'm not going to retire. I'm going to start my own coaching and consulting business. So you really do not like chilling, do you?
Well, I tell you this is the other thing. I'm pausing here because that article, remember we said that sent you that article.
Yeah.
And it was about
the free time.
Yeah.
Yes.
And there's a balance.
Yeah. I love the article.
Yeah. So put that in the show notes too, because that really resonated with me because I knew before I left Boeing, like years before, that when I left Boeing that I was going to become a coach. When I got my master's degree, I took what do you call those? Elective. We needed to take an elective. I took coaching, which I had never even heard of. But I loved it. And I thought, oh, this is a great thing to do once I leave Boeing. I mean, I did it while I was, with people when I was there at Boeing too. But afterwards, I'm going to start my own business. And that was way before coaching was even a thing. So that was on my mind and I was excited to do that. But I also kind of feel like that this article where if you don't have, too much work is bad. We know that. And if you don't have enough free time or time to yourself or space, you get all the bad stress, reactions. You get bad mental health, physical health, all of that. But this article also pointed out if you have too much free space, you lose purpose and meaning.
Yeah. And it's so true.
I think so too. So this article said there's a sweet spot, and I'm not a scientist, and these people were, and I kind of thought, well, it makes sense to me. I don't know if it is, but it's like between 2 and 5 hours of free time or time for yourself is about the right each day, which seems kind of a lot.
Yeah.
But it depends on how you get that time for yourself. So it could be, reading a book at lunch instead of looking at your email or, something like that, or taking a walk, or, it doesn't have to be 2 hours all in a block. But so that is a long answer to get back to after I retired from Boeing. I was working a lot, but having no structure in my life.
Even worse.
It's not for me, it's not great.
No, and I have the feeling that all the people who decide to retire and really stop working in every project, that they get older way faster. You know what I mean? Because there's no structure, no purpose. And of course, everything starts to deteriorate because there is no purpose anymore, no real purpose. And that's why I totally feel you. And when I hear today, I'm not 30 yet. And when I hear people at my age talking about retirement, I'm like, no, why do I have to think of it? I mean, if I want to, I work. And if I don't want to, I do not work. It's not that I say, and when I'm 60, I'm going to quit. No, that's not how I want to live.
Yeah. But, retirement is a funny word. For some reason, I didn't have the same meaning that most people have, because when I said I'm retiring from Boeing after 30 years, and I did on the younger end of the spectrum, and they said, well, wait, what are you going to do? How do you're just going to go sit on a beach or something? And I was like, I don't know what you're talking about. I've got like half my life more to go.
Yeah.
To me, it just feels like, I'm like going from one phase to the other phase. And this phase, the difference is I get to choose like totally where I spend my time. So it really does feel like, even though I'm working really hard, because it's my choice and it's stuff that I love, it's not stressful.
And I mean, you're doing a great job. You're a super great coach. I can tell from experience. That's why it's great that you do it.
Well, and I just get so much from it. I think I get more from it than my clients, because I get to talk to great people from all over the world. And I get to feel like I'm part of something. I'm part of your life, and it's a really a great feeling. So I feel like I don't know what retirement means, and I don't know that I'm ever going to stop working and start having I don't know.
Yeah, but that's cool because you got the choice.
Yes. Yeah. I think that's the biggest thing.
Yeah.
It's when we don't have choice, or we don't feel we have choice. It's very, very stressful.
And yeah, I mean, you had quite some years where you didn't have a real choice, right? So now it's a new feeling.
Yeah. And I know that I did. I mean, I really did, but I imposed myself. And, but, when you're not, I didn't have a lot of money at the very beginning. And, there was those worries and that's stressful, So, and there's a lot of people in those situations. They've got to work.
Just keep going.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And supporting each other.
That's important.
That's the thing. And being kind to each other. And if you see somebody like I think like when I
with spaghetti in the shoes.
Yes. If they look a little disheveled and they've got spit up down the back because their baby spit up, and just like put your arm around them and say, hey, you're doing great, because I think there was a few people in my career and life that saw in me who I really was. Mm-hmm. And knew that I was going to be fine and I could do more, and showed me that they had confidence in me, which really made me more confident.
Yeah. Kind of the halo effect.
Even though I was a mess a lot.
But you see, they were right.
Well, it is. It's as I'm talking about this, I'm thinking, I've got to look for those women who were like me and give them some more support.
That's wonderful. So is there any advice you would give your younger self, let's say at the age of 18 or 20, something you would have loved you already knew back then?
Oh. This is a hard one. It's like, if you would go back and change, like, would you have those children at so young?
Okay, so I didn't mean the question going that way, but the answer is totally open.
Well, because that changed my life, right? Yeah. I mean, I wanted to go into international business and do all this, stuff and get out of Seattle and all of this. And then, I got married, had a baby, all that. I fell in love, all of that. And I think, so I wouldn't change that, because I wouldn't have my girls. And then I wouldn't have been at Boeing, and I wouldn't have this great life. But if I was back then and I was give myself advice, and say, like, maybe I'm going to go into a parallel universe, I would say, like, don't put, like, follow, it sounds so trite, like, follow your dreams. Don't put any boundaries on yourself or constraints. Just go for it. Even if you don't know how it's going to end, or if you think this is going to be a disaster, because when you're young, I guess even when you're old, I mean, if you try for something and it fails, like, who cares?
That's the thing. You think so many people would think something about it, but actually they're so focused on themselves that they wouldn't even notice most of the time.
No. And by even the trying, you're going to meet people. Yeah. You're going to have experiences that will open up other doors, that you just don't know. It's kind of like you've got to go down, you've got to start the path. And if you're following some kind of passion or interest, or just like interest or curiosity, it's amazing what shows up.
Yeah.
And so just go for it.
And Susan, what's so great that the last podcast guest who was here on last Monday, when I asked him what is his advice or his motto, was follow your dreams. And he had a super similar story. So I just love it. Thank you so much for your time, for your insights, for your experience, for sharing all of that. I really appreciated it. And I'm pretty sure that all of the listeners have a lot to take away and learn from it. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Das war's für heute. Vom Stresspreneur zum Chillpreneur. Wir hören uns nächste Woche wieder. Mit Tipps, wie du Stress besser verstehst und vor allem, wie du deine Ziele erreichst, ohne dich kaputt zu schuften. Weitere Infos findest du auch auf www.der-chillpreneur.de oder auf Facebook und Instagram @der.chillpreneur.